Joe, at number 2, you have Oregon, and I have them at 3. When you look at the Oregon Ducks at FanDuel, what is their over-under and win total, and what is their plus-minus to win the conference?
On FanDuel, they are plus 340, the third best odds to win the Big Ten. And then also on FanDuel, their win total is also 10.5. So Penn State, Oregon, and Ohio State all at 10.5, which is pretty interesting. Here's my big driving force for why I have a lot of belief in Oregon this upcoming year. I think they deserve a lot more recognition for how well Dan Lanning has recruited this team. And now there is an opportunity for his first real recruiting classes of these 5-star guys, high 4-stars, to step onto the field and to dominate. He had a lot of guys that he brought in through the transfer portal or that were already a part of the roster that were there and played well, and they got the most out of them. But now we get to see these SEC caliber defensive linemen tee off. We get to see what Amari Washington gets to do as a starter, who made it on a Feldman's freak list. He's a 338-pounder who had a 36-inch vertical. This dude is insanely athletic. He's replacing Jamari Caldwell, who I think you upgraded there. Elijah Rushing should be contributing more. Mateo Uyunglele we're super high on. And they also brought in Dillon Thieneman. I think that there's a shot, Blake, that their defense is better than it was a year ago, which is pretty crazy to say. And I have belief in Will Stein tapping into Dante Moore and getting the most out of him. We can have an extended discussion on that, and I'll throw it to you. But I feel like this team is one of the few rare instances of a team getting better despite putting out veteran guys to the NFL.
Well, and they won the conference in their first year and getting there. I do think defensively they're absolutely disgusting at all 3 levels. They will be better, I think, than they were a year ago. Down the stretch, I do feel like the depth was a problem because, Joe, remember at the end of the season a year ago, they were giving up well over 150 yards plus on the ground. Some of those same guys are there, and some of the depth pieces that you're using are becoming starters. So we need to see on that. You do add in Bear Alexander, who's been, for whatever it's worth, a little bit of a problem child at most stops that he's been at. Can Dan Lanning, who was a big part of that recruitment to Georgia in the beginning, be the person that can get through to him and get him to where he wants to go? Joe, for me, it's just so much offensively for me to overcome of why I still think Penn State and Ohio State are there. Okay? Listen, the bottom line here for me is this. You have 3 new offensive linemen. I think Isaiah World is really good. You have Mekhi Hughes from Tulane that's coming in. I still think your running game's going to be good. Joe, with Evan Stewart going down, and now you're trying to promote a freshman receiver who, by the way, he committed on my show, and DeCorian Moore. I 1,000% believe that he is going to be special. But I got a real, true first-time starter at a high level and a high-profile school with some receivers that we need to see take that next level. You got a lot of absences there. Joe, they hit in some regards along their offensive line the last couple of years from the portal, but in the beginning of the season, what happened? We were talking about they can't run the ball and they can't separate from Idaho. No, not Idaho, Idaho. Okay? So you get to a place where how quickly can this offense get moving? And it's not like Dylan Gabriel hadn't been around the block a couple of times because he had been. Dante Moore sitting did what for him? That is the question coming out of Oregon for me. What did it do? Can they take that next step? Can he prove that he is as talented as we think that he is going to be will be the ultimate question. I got to be real with you. If you're making me pick the best defense in the entire Big Ten, it is Oregon to me. I'm just a little worried about them offensively and how they'll get some things done. I think it's not as easy as saying, well, we have so-and-so. Well, again, in the beginning of the year, you couldn't separate against some teams, and it almost bit you in the ass.
One thing I also just want to toss in here before I come back for the offensive discussion, they're one of the few teams, too, that has continuity at both coordinator positions. That is something that just doesn't happen a lot in college football. They're bringing back same OC, same DC, with all these guys that they've been working with for the past couple of years. That is a huge underrated boost that they have. I get what you're saying with the concerns offensively. I think their O-line is going to be fine. I think it's different than your typical reclamation project, duct tape project with bringing in 3 offensive linemen, because Pregnon's still an experienced starter and he's a pretty good player. And he'll get drafted top 200 picks, maybe top 150 picks. And we know that Isaiah World is insanely gifted. Evan Stewart going down with the injury that he had definitely takes a little bit of air out of this. It makes me feel a little bit uneasy, because if they had him and DeCorian Moore, this receiver room's pretty explosive. Mm-hmm. Now that we have to rely on a true freshman, it puts a lot of pressure on Dante Moore's shoulders to be that guy.
Agreed.
To be a first-round caliber type of a quarterback guy. I think that they're going to need to run the ball a lot more. And I think if they do have success, they do go 10 and 11 and 1, and they end up having a great year, and they get back to the Big Ten championship game, it's going to be because they lean on Mekhi Hughes and they get more out of Noah Whittington. There is a shot for them to do so, but they got to run the rock more, because they just don't have the reliability and the experience at receiver like they thought they were going to have.
September 27th is when you got to all figure it out. You got Montana State, Oklahoma State, Northwestern, Oregon State, and then Penn State comes into town. It's when you got to figure it out.
They go to Penn State.
I mean, excuse me. They go to Penn State. You're right. Then you got to figure it out. Joe, I feel like there's going to be something in there that we're missing. I don't know who or what it is. But, again, I need to see it, man. I mean, I don't think from Penn State, Ohio State, and Oregon, I think there's so many there's fine hairs that we have to come in here and try to split. And I don't think it's fair when you feel like that there's 3 teams that's as evenly talented as the 3 of them that you can do that. Again, I do think defensively, though, they can carry it in the beginning of this. And here's the thing. You going into Pennsylvania, you going up against Penn State, that defense, we've seen Drew Allar struggle in the past. This defense can cause him a lot of problems, and so we'll see with Oregon there.